Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Thank you. Welcome to the board meeting for December. Paul, can you call the roll, please? Certify the quorum. Notice.
All right, we have Matt Barker, Karen Goldmartin, Steve Burke, Nathaniel Monks, Pat Kepke, and Margie Cassie online. So we have a quorum for the meeting, and notice was posted in accordance with statute.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the prior meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Righty. So it's December, and we have some fairly big news here. The vendor, the operator for our potential operator for our restaurant that the search committee found for us has signed a lease with the foundation. So this means that he will be running his business out of our facility. We're hoping to get him open as early in January as possible. This is will largely be dependent on a couple of uncontrollable variable factors, like how quickly he can get a liquor license, and what his how he will be able to fill his staffing needs in this labor market. Right now, both things are looking pretty good. So he is a guy, Brad Phillips at the Phillips Restaurant Group. He has had a couple of restaurants in Fort Myers Beach that were wiped out in Hurricane Ian. He's rebuilding. He was looking for a third spot before the hurricane, and we sort of fell into his lap. He is a guy with broad experience, a couple decades of running these restaurants, family restaurant, and also a bar, Oliver's Place, and the South Beach Grill in Fort Myers Beach. So he's got a lot of experience and really competent, nice guy, really easy to work with and accommodating. Wants to work with us, wants to have interactions with the foundation, with Lynn, with Johan, understands what our needs are as a community and what our goal is here to have a neighborhood of style restaurant. So we're very pleased to be able to make this announcement. And we are hoping, like I said, we're hoping that we get going as early as possible. He's also hoping for the same thing, so he's working hard at it. Okay, so that is the president's report. Sure. We could have a few questions about this, sure.
If you want to come to the desk, though, please, the members can.
The question is,
No.
the people online can't see you.
Or hear you.
They can see you.
All right. Ed Walsh, Terravella. The question is, what will the contract say regarding who may use the restaurant?
Well, okay, so who may use the restaurant, it's going to have to be Pelican Marsh residents only and their guests. So if a Pelican Marsh resident wants to bring a guest who's not a Pelican Marsh resident, that's perfectly fine, but it won't be open.
Great. Thank you.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, we know from the previous vendor that we had that there were a number of mistakes.
Could you identify yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Gary Everett.
Hi, Gary.
From our previous experience with our previous vendor, we knew there were a number of mistakes. We had a learning experience with the previous vendor. The contract was less than desirable. Have you addressed those issues or shortcomings of the previous vendor and the contract?
Do you have a specific question?
You've already signed the contract, so we can't change that apparently.
Well, it's not, it's a lease, actually.
Okay.
We're leasing a space to a guy who's running his business. We have no financial obligation. Concern.
And that's good. I mean, that covers one point. What about the operating terms of the How do if we don't like, if he can't perform one of our outs? And again, there's a number of issues with the previous contract and the operating methods. Have you addressed those? And
If you have specific questions, Gary, maybe it would be best, if it's going to be, if you have extensive questions, maybe the resident comments section of the program would be better to get those answered. But if you have a couple of specific questions, we're happy to entertain those.
okay, well, just start with at the very beginning. It appears to me that you're basically dictating what you want to do to the residents rather than finding out what the residents want and then going through there. This is the first time I've gotten any information whatsoever of going after a new contract. And then we find out that the first information we have is you sign the contract without any information whatsoever to any of the residents.
Okay, but that's actually, we have been giving out information at the board meetings. Have you been coming?
So we have to go to you. You can't use all of the mass media methods. of
Okay, let me
communicating.
answer this question broadly to everyone so that you guys all understand where we stand with, in terms of communication, which we view as essential to good governance, is communication between the board and the community. Most of this information is disseminated at the monthly board meeting. The monthly board meeting can be attended in person, as all of you are doing. It can be viewed on Zoom from any place that has an internet connection. It can be viewed as a recording on our website at your convenience at any time. So all this dimension, and then the minutes are published, and the financials are also published. Monthly financials and the annual budget are published on the website.
Where?
On the website. So that
I have, again, this notice is the first piece of information I've gotten from the board since the last time I attended the board a month ago. Where is this information at? We have to search it out.
Well, like I said, we have been talking about this for some months now. We've made an announcement at the last board meeting that we had found a vendor, that the vendor had been recommended to us by the search committee, and that we were negotiating a lease with the vendor. We talked about it at that time. Were you not aware of this?
Well, and there's obviously no information put out to the public. We basically have to come to your board meetings before we get any information.
I think, no, if I may back up to two things. One, knowledge us communication, and the other is the process that went into this. And in terms of resident input, it was very clear that the last vendor we had, the contract with them was not approved by the community. So this contract is not like that at all. I think Steve kind of said that because we're not in the restaurant business and we are trying to have that restaurant operate on its own. And I think Matt can really probably speak more specifically to that. But what I did want to say is that we had a search committee made up of residents who applied to be on that committee. The search committee are the ones who looked at several different vendors, and then they actually chose this one to recommend to the foundation to approve. And that's kind of what's happened. So I feel as if we have been operating, listening to what the community would like. That's the first thing. The second thing is about communication. I think what Steve was saying is that you don't have to come to every board meeting because you can listen to it online, listen to the board meeting online. You can read the minutes online, and all of those are in fact available immediately after every board meeting. I think maybe we could do a better job in letting people know that this is all available, but I think the Pelican brief, frequently Paul, our manager, frequently puts in his report how you can access all this information. I know Steve does it in his report, or he does it in the Pelican brief as well. So, we do our best to try to communicate. And if you feel like you're not
In
getting
fact, Paul does an excellent job of communicating what he's doing on an ongoing basis. And I'm not saying that you people are doing anything wrong at all. That's not my intent. My comment is that, you know, we have to do too much proactive digging for information. I watch email all the time, particularly the board emails. And when you talk about this contract, and I'm sure the people on the committee are intelligent, well-meaning, good people. I don't mean to insinuate anything of the contract. But when you come to a vendor, say, oh, this is our top candidate, I think that information should be put out there for the general public. And say, okay.
Because we did discuss it at the last board meeting. We had someone that we were, you know, feeling we wanted to negotiate with and develop a contract with. And at the last meeting, members of the search committee came to the board meeting and gave reports. I think it was the last meeting, is that correct? And gave reports on who this particular restaurateur was, and also an overview of the search that they've done and the kinds of people they had interviewed for Pelican Marsh. So,
And once
I don't know what else.
once the board ratifies this lease signing at today's meeting, then the foundation is going to put out an email blast to the community with details, letting you know what the story is. Our goal, obviously.
Why can't you do an email blast before you made an ironclad commitment?
So there's when you're signing a lease or negotiating a contract, there are certain things that the other party doesn't really want to be public until the lease is signed. Maybe the fact that he's even involved in a negotiation with us. We just follow the lead of our attorney and do what he tells us to do. And I don't really know what to tell you.
You have more information on who this vendor is, how it's going to be operated now, available for the public.
Like I said, once this thing is ratified, we're going to be sending a statement out to the community. And you know, let me just to touch on a basic issue, and then I'm going to ask you to let somebody else.
Okay.
The way this is going to look is entirely up to this guy. What the community was clear about was they did not want to be in the restaurant business, meaning they wanted no skin in the game, a phrase we've heard ad nauseum here. But the truth of the matter is that this guy, this restaurateur, is going to be running his operation out of our facility. We're leasing it to him. He's going to make these decisions. Now, he is a really, really nice guy and really open to working with us. But at the end of the day, he's got to run a profitable business here in a seasonal, resident-only community, which is going to be a difficult road to hoe. So we have something to say about how this is going to go, but not everything to say. It's not like it was with the last people where we said, listen, this is what we want, this is what we want, this is what we want. It's our business. But this is not our business.
At the same time, someone was chosen to reflect the needs of the community, things that came out of surveys that we did, that you didn't want a high-end restaurant with cordon bleu every night, that you wanted a more grill atmosphere, bar atmosphere, and those are the kinds of restaurants that this guy has in the past run. So, and that's what he wants to offer to us, including his restaurants would have, you know, entertainment come, people ask that they would like that, a more casual atmosphere. And so we did, even though, as Steve said, we can't tell him what to do because it's his restaurant. He's paying, you know, we have a lease agreement with him. But he is certainly open to responding to our needs.
He wants to be profitable. He wants to be successful. He wants to stay open.
He wants to do what we want because
Right.
that's the way he's going to make money.
All of these things are great, and you guys are doing a good job. I'm not questioning that. We've talked about it before in previous meetings I've attended. I've listened to you. I don't have any question that you're answering a number of these things. My only reservation is communicating to the community what is going on with this thing. Because I've talked with other people, I play a lot of tennis, play a lot of pickleball, and people don't seem to know any more than I do. And I know very little other than when I come to board meetings.
This is early days. We signed the lease with this guy on the 12th, okay? So we are just getting started here, and we want to tell you everything that we can as soon as we know it. A lot of this is not really known to us yet. I mean, he's working things out in terms of what the menu is going to look like. And of course, all we know is what we learned the last time around. We had a lot of survey data from when Nest was the venue that showed us what people thought of food, what kind of food they like. We know how many quesadillas were ordered. We know all that stuff. So we pass that data on to him, and he uses it to inform the construction of his menu. But this is a guy with a lot of experience. And we're going to tell him how to run the restaurant business. And so he's going to give us a framework, and we're going to be happy. I have a feeling we're going to be happy. So, is there anybody else who has a question?
Thank you very much. I'm not sure much here.
Pardon me? We have
The chair.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. Jerry Carbone. I got just two key questions. Under this lease, what is our liability against the $150,000 that we have in the budget?
Can I answer that one?
yes.
As Steve has been mentioning, this gentleman that's going to run the restaurant, he owns his own business. And so we have zero liability for his losses, and we have zero profit in his gains. He's going to run his own restaurant. But we do have a budget for helping through the worst parts of the month, the worst parts of the year, if the annual sales are poor. And so we've devised a schedule with him so that when the worst parts of the month, the worst parts of the year come and sales drop, some people say, why don't he just close for 5 months or something? He'd have no employees anymore, and so he wouldn't be able to reopen. So he's got to stay open, at least with a bare bones staff. So during those months when we don't have enough customers for him to make a profit, we're going to subsidize him with a small fee or an advance. And then at the end of the year, we're going to count up all his sales. And if his sales were in a certain range, then he gets a certain subsidy based on the stair step. It could be zero. It could be, it would be very, very hard for it to be a large number because there's the stair step. You have to land exactly on that step to get a large number. So we anticipate it being a moderate, probably first year subsidy, and hopefully in the second year, maybe zero. We don't know. There's no data yet, but we're not responsible for any of his losses. We're not going to get blindsided by anything. And the lawyer and the insurance companies and all that is all taken care of so that we're out of his business.
Okay, well, what's the cap?
The cap is 150, but it's all.
No. What's the cap that he has to achieve? In other words, got to be gross sales as a number.
Yeah.
If he meets that, he doesn't get anything. If he doesn't meet that, he's going to get such and such.
1.2. At 1.2, he gets nothing. 1.1 or 1.2?
1.2.
1.2, he gets nothing. And then beyond that, he actually starts helping us. So if he has.
We get something over the 1.2.
Yeah, over the
but not
1.2, he actually has a return to us, and below 1.2 has a small amount and a larger amount below that.
Good. Okay, that's a good answer.
Anyone else? And then we need to move on, but we will have an opportunity to revisit this during the resident comments. So let's have the treasurer report. Nathaniel.
Thank you. All right, it's time for the treasurer's report,
1 sec.
which will appear on your screen in a moment. Generally, it's good news. The year is almost over. All the surprises are gone.
Gasket's coming.
Nothing strange happened in November. The rest of this is just numbers. That's the bottom line. Nothing in November really happened. Okay, but we're going to go to year to date. It's going to sound like the October report. Our expenses year to date are $35,000 over budget. This is mostly due to inflation. We pay more for everything now. Fitness, court sports, they're essentially at budget. Social revenue, social activities have been just gone haywire this year, really done great. They've just increased social activities a lot. Food and beverage, as you might have heard a rumor, we lost a lot of money this year on that. And it's over. And that came out of the operating fund. And then the good news is always at the bottom, the resale fees. We've actually sold 100 houses this year. Nobody thought there was any way that we would sell 100 houses. 100 houses is like pre-COVID. And there was 0 houses for sale on January 1, and we're supposed to be trying to guess how many houses we're going to sell. And I think we came up with something like 72. We're just kind of throwing darts with our eyes covered. And it went to 100, just like if there had been no COVID. It was just really great. However, as you might have been watching TV lately, next year is going to be completely different. They're hiking rates, sales falling. There's no longer people standing in lines outside your house while you're still pushing the for sale sign into the ground. It's going to be worse next year, but nothing happened in November. Next page. All right. Now, normally when the treasurer starts talking, I notice everybody starts texting their grandkids or their eyes glaze over. There is a test. So this part I want you to pay attention because later in this meeting, we're going to come back to this and you'll be glad you know some of this on a different subject. We have 3 accounts. This will answer a whole lot of questions. I get a lot of crazy questions about the restaurant and things like that. It's mostly because people don't realize we have these 3 accounts. All right, that account on the left is the operating account. It's important for you to know that that's the account where we spend all our money out of, where we have bills, and we know we're going to have these bills. We're paying our bills every week, month, or year, like insurance or employees or electric. It comes out of the operating account. If we have to have a restaurant that is got a bad deal going on, we lose a lot of money, it comes out of the operating account. That'll be on your homework. Operating account, things like that come out of operating account, not out of the other 2. Okay, the replacement account is what you call the reserve account, and that's where we're putting money aside for things that we know are going to wear out. Moth and rust doth corrupt. It's going to go to heck. We're going to have to replace it. It's already paid for. Every year we have a replacement fund, and that's what that is. Then the capital account is where we have money, where we're going to spend money to make this place a little better in some ways than the way it used to be. So that's an improvement. Essentially, think of it as an improvement account. All right, so in our operating account, in January 1, we had $509,000. And at the end of the year, we have $611,000, but that's partially because we're already receiving some money for next year. So that's really not all, it's not available to be spent this year. Replacement account, $471,000. It actually does have $609,000. And that's because we put more money in than we spent, because some of the items we're putting money in are big, and then we'll all of a sudden go whoosh, and we'll spend a huge amount of money on a roof or a tennis court or something. Capital fund, we spent a lot of money last year on finishing the restaurant. January 1, it wasn't done. So we had to finish paying for building the restaurant. That's essentially most of what happened there. Next page. Now, you can't cheat and look at your book anymore. The operating fund is where we spend money where the restaurant lost its money. All right. The thing on the page you can't see anymore had an operating fund where the restaurant lost its money. A lot of people say, are you going to do something next year that's going to relate because you lost money last year? No, the operating fund, whatever money was lost last year or this year, is done with it on December 31. That cannot affect next year. Nothing we're doing next year, whether it's the HOA fee, resale fee, anything else, has nothing to do with the restaurant, because what happened with the restaurant came out of the operating fund, it's gone. It's done, it's history. We were lucky we had that much money in the account, got paid for. So nothing that's going to happen in the future has anything to do with the past as far as that big kicking. So a lot of people have that question. You can let them know it's okay. It's all that. We had the money, we paid for it, wash our hands of it, it's over. All right, fitness revenue. This is gym and fitness inside the building, things like that. We actually are not back to pre-COVID levels yet. A lot of people are still being careful, and that's probably a part of it, because outdoors, it's above pre-COVID. We put 2019 in the far right column there, so you can kind of compare the numbers with now and last year, but also skip all the way back to pre-COVID, and you can see that. So I really expect fitness will probably get better next year, as probably the rest of the people feel more comfortable coming back to the gym. The gym is not as crowded as it normally is in the busy months. Before COVID, the busy months, the gym would be too crowded, and I actually can go in there and get whatever machine I want at the odd times I work out. The social revenue, it tries to break even, but you'll notice some outrageously large numbers there, and that's because of Lynn, the social director, is just expanded her horizon, and it is giving you essentially an enlarged amenity for no extra money, and you have all these fun things that you can do, buy, see, or go to. The activity centers, the food and beverage is the one we talk about a lot. You see that is now, nothing's happening on that anymore. We've pretty much capped out at 405,000. We don't expect any more bills to come in, laggards or anything. That's over. Next page. Okay, your eyes are going to start glazing over now. Now it's okay. You won't be testing on any of this rest part. Sales are good. The way our budget's written, the way the bylaws are written, whenever we sell houses, they pay a resale fee. They essentially become an owner of this 5 acres here until they move away or die. And so you will see that on the left-hand side, under the resale allocation, says operating account 45%, replacement fund 30%, capital fund 25%. As the resale fees come in, back in the old days under Mr. Jerry here, they set those numbers up, but recently we have trying to be more cautious than that, thanks to our auditors. Our auditor says that we should try to be more cautious and not rely on some houses selling for our operating expenses for the budget, the money we know we're going to spend. So this board has been very careful to not use resale fee money for operating expenses unless an emergency happens, because we would rather the money be first put into the reserve account and then after that the capital account. So you can see there what's happened in the past. I'm not going to read all those numbers to you. Next page. All this is on the website. Anytime you have a question, you can see all these numbers that I show you on the website. The videos of these meetings are on the website. And I'm available to ask questions anytime you want to. And also, if you're not getting enough information from the community center, maybe because you don't have the right email address, please everybody make sure you have the right email address in the office. A lot of people are not getting emails, and it's only because we don't have your right email address. All right, I mentioned earlier, we have 100 resales, and that's at the end of November. There's actually a couple more probably still working. Is that right? 2, 3, 5. Oh my gosh, we're going to be over by the time the year is over. We're going to be, yeah. We'll have to be careful after that. And so you see how we move the money, and then that goes back to the first page in those accounts. That's all I have for at this moment.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Okay, time for Paul and the foundation managers report.
Okay, so this season, we're off to a great start. Our holiday dinner party that happened this past Tuesday was a big success with many great reviews that come in so far. We will continue this fun next week, starting with the staff's ugly Christmas sweater day on Monday. So please come by the office, community center to see our lovely sweaters. Tuesday, here comes Santa Claus holiday party for the kids, where there'll be crafts and games and pizza and of course Santa to celebrate with the kids. And then on Wednesday, we're having our Fun in the Marsh party, where there's going to be a barbecue food truck and a dessert vendor truck out there in the courtyard, along with live music for members to hang out and have fun together. And then afterwards, those who signed up, there'll be a bus picking them up to go watch the holiday light party. So looking forward, hopefully the rain holds off on that party. January also is the time when the community center really gets busy. So we're recommending that members be sure to check out the schedule of activities and sign up for those events before they fill up. And just remember all the events we have going on. There are flyers in the lobby, or you can get those flyers on the website to find out more specifics of what's happening. A big thank you to the residents who have donated gifts for the Guadalupe Center. gift giving for children. You'll notice a lot of presents that have been put around the tree in the lobby, and then they go away when they pick them up and we replenish them. The members of the center are very grateful to see all the gifts that members have donated for the needy families this Christmas year. So thank you so much. As part of everyone's New Year's resolutions, please don't forget to include your home to be checked for any cleaning and repairs that are needed. As we said in the past, the rains and the humidity cause dirt and mildew buildup on your home. And just remember the Pelican Marsh rules require that all homes be kept clean and maintained. So just please be a good neighbor and help keep the community looking its best. As a reminder, this time of year, many residents are out here visiting, out walking and jogging. So when you're driving through the community, please make sure you're making full stops at the parking stop signs and staying to the posted speed limit to make sure we keep everyone safe this season. Again, as we said before, we want to make sure every resident is kept updated about what's happening in Pelican Marsh. So it's important that you make sure you provide us with your current contact information, including your email address, so we can keep you updated and informed. And all this information we talk about, the meetings, the minutes, is all on the website. So make sure you're registered on the website so you can access the website to anytime look at the minutes, the agendas, the videos of the meetings, that kind of stuff. It's very important. Lastly, the staff wants to wish everyone a wonderful holiday and New Year celebration. And we're looking forward to a very busy and fun-filled 2023 in just a few days. So that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Paul. Now, section 9, old business, item 9.1. The board will ratify the approval of the lease for a new food and beverage operator. May I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now section 10, new business. Item 10.1, approval of resolution to increase resale fees from $6,000 to $7,500. I think that, Daniel?
I would like to address this issue. There's a lot of questions on this. What we're proposing to do here is to raise the fee that a person pays when they first time buy a house in Pelican Marsh. Not later on when they move within Pelican Marsh, as we all plan to do, but the first time they move into Pelican Marsh, they have to pay a fee to get in. And that fee essentially gives them ownership of this 100, consider it 1 over 1900 ownership of Pelican Marsh Foundation. You get to do all these amenities, whether you use them or not, they belong to you, and 2 people at your house can use them for as long as you live here. And in the past, the fee was $6,000. We're proposing to raise it to $7,500, which sounds like a lot. And so I'd like to go over that the board has been working with and some of the numbers so you can see why it makes sense to us to consider doing this at this time. Now, as I mentioned in my other report, we have those 3 accounts, the operating account for day-to-day spending. It has nothing to do with that. That is your HOA fees. That money is that resale fee. It is for improving this with a capital account and for reserve account for replacing things that we know are going to wear out. Both of those accounts have needs. Both of those accounts have great needs. I anticipate those accounts needing more money right away. And at the same time, I anticipate our income from resale fees dropping. And I'll tell you why. Everybody who is an expert, they may all be wrong, but everybody who's an expert believes that home sales are going to drop precipitously right away. It's already started. And every time the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, even a half a point, it makes people's payments much, much higher, which makes all homes go down in value. And even though we have cash sales very often in Pelican Marsh, when home prices right below us or nearby us go down in value, it makes ours go down in value. Revisit 2008 and see what happened when house values go down. They go down everywhere. The tide goes down, the tide goes down. We expect, in fact, we have budgeted the sales of homes next year to be 50. Might turn out to be 60. A miracle might happen, maybe 100. I doubt it. I would like to bet against that, but no one will bet against me. There's going to be less sales next year. We're going to have less income. The reserve account is the account that we put in for these things to be replaced. Imagine everything in the reserve account has a schedule. Right now, we're paying in for the roof. Every year we pay in for the roof, and someday we're going to replace the roof. The cost of the roof, the tennis courts, the painting, everything that's on that schedule just shot up in cost. Yet we are on a schedule to pay for it at the old price. So we're going to have a study, we're going to have an inflation adjustment, and we're going to have to raise the amount that we put in there. We put in at 212,000 last year, and I can tell you every item on there is more expensive. There's no sales going on. And so the reserve account is going to need more money. At the same time, we're going to be receiving less money. Now, the capital account. The capital account is the account we use to improve. It's already a great facility, but there are some improvements that need to be made. This is mostly about amenities. And amenities here are for the owners, and the owners use them, love them, and ask for more of them in certain ways, and then certain needs with capital N happen. For example, if you notice on the back porch by the bocce, there's a bunch of stationary bicycles there. That's now the spin room outdoors because we're out of room in here. And we don't have room for them in here anymore. We have a plan that when the capital account someday has enough money, we have a plan to add that room back onto the building in a little notch where the building already has a little notch over by the gym, and there's a great place to put it. And we could build that notch back in and make the building a little bit bigger, move those bicycles off the porch, and make them last longer. But it's just crazy that we have to do that, but we don't have money in the capital account. You saw my report. We have $100,000. You can't build anything in 2023 with $100,000. And so we need a place for those bicycles. The pickleball courts are stuffed. In the winter, the pickleball courts are booked all morning, all afternoon when it's too hot to play, in the evening, and sometimes booked into the night. And when they have pickleball events, Johan now has to double some of the events to where he says, okay, I'm going to have it half of it on Tuesday and half on Thursday because there's not enough room here. And the pickleball players are saying, can you please find us a place to play pickleball? When people come here to buy a house, their realtor shows them around. 100% of the time, the realtor brings them here and shows them here what we got. Some realtors and some people might say, oh, if you raise the fee from $6,000 to $7,500, someone might not buy a house here. And at first blush, you might think, well, that might have something to do with it. Okay, the realtor brings them here and shows them all the amenities and shows them how well we've done with the amenities, and then later tells them the fee, which do you think weighs heavier on their mind, what they saw that they love, or whether the fee was almost the same as another community somewhere else. I wrote some notes here. Everything we do, everything we hope to do, such as add that little room back into the gym, make it a little bigger, add a pickleball court, anything we want to do, the county forces us to add parking spots. They've already given us waivers. We can't add any more parking spots. We cannot ask permission to not add any more parking spots. We've already done this. We've gotten waivers. We've added things without adding parking spots. They let us buy with it somehow or another. We got a restaurant without any parking spots. We have to have parking spots before we move on. The board has investigated with the help of experts, several different options to have them. And guess what? There's no cheap parking spots anywhere. If we can come up with a way to add parking spots, they'll have to be constructed. They'll be expensive to add. They'll have to be made out of concrete and maybe worse. And so we may have to actually move the stuff around and pay some contractors to work on it or something. So then we're gonna have to do something expensive in order to do something expensive. So I request that we consider the needs of those two accounts as our primary reason for doing that. The capital account and the reserve account are going to need that. Now, our community watched the other communities around us. In fact, I'm going to read off some communities around us. The Quarry raised in the last 2 years, they raised their resale fee 83%. Pelican Landing raised it 100%, and Pelican Bay raised it 33%. It's not like it's not like we're the only ones who've seen inflation. And inflation has been pretty bad the last few years. And so this is a 25% increase. Just this morning, I went back and looked when I bought my house 8 years ago, and the resale fee was 0.8% of my cost to buy my house. And now I look at my same house. If we raise the fee to $7,500, then my house's resale fee would then only be 7 0.2%. So in other words, the resale fee has been going down because of inflation in the last decade, not up, even if we raise it. And what's going to happen later is in a few years, the same thing's going to happen, especially if the Federal Reserve is slow about getting a hold of inflation. So it's a big number in the minds of some people, but when you compare it to what's happened to houses and condominiums, they have went up huge percentage, even though the lower price condominiums have went up a big percentage. And this is a 25% increase. That's all.
Thank you. So what we're going to do here is we're going to call the question, and then we're going to have community comment. If any of you would like to ask questions about anything Nathaniel has just told you. So may I have a motion to approve the increase in the resale fee from 6,000 to 75,000?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Oh, wait. I got ahead of myself.
Board comments.
Yeah, no, should we do the community comments? And then
Yes,
we'll-
then we'll
okay,
vote.
yeah. So, belay that. May I have community comments, please? Yeah.
I love what you're doing.
Oh, can we see you online?
Yeah, okay.
You're beautiful.
Yeah, they want to see you.
Yeah, I know. Barbara yesterday.
Get your money's worth.
Jerry Carbone again. I'm glad you did that because this is the first time that increase has ever been invoked without me asking for it. So I'm glad you did something like that.
And proxy.
Right. In fact, it was up to me. I should raise it to 10 grand. I know the realtors would hate to hear it, but it's the event of living with times. My problem that I have is just logistics. You should have done this before you approved the budget. Because you're going to have to amend the budget to include that number now because it's money coming in next year. And if you sold 100 houses, that's $150,000 more. Want to know what you're going to do with it?
Can I address that, Jerry?
Sure.
This board believes that the thing to do with the resale fees is to put that money in the capital account and the reserve account and not budget it into the operating.
Yeah, I
account.
know we went through that argument 10 times. I still disagree with it, but that's okay. Because you're still not adhering to what's in the documents. But my point is you need to address this as part of the 2023 income and budget.
Well, it won't affect the operating account
It
budget.
doesn't make any difference. We are potentially going to get $150,000 into a slush fund. Okay?
No, not a slush fund, a capital account.
I don't care. You call it anything you want. It's an accountability point. That's all.
All right, so at base, we have a number that we have to meet to fund the reserve account, the replacement fund next year. That's primary. So 100% of the resale capital assessment goes into the reserve account until that is fully funded. That number for 2023 is going to be $220,000, something like that. So depending on what happens with and I understand what you're saying here, but just bear with me for a minute. Suppose things don't go as well as we would hope, and suppose the Fed pushes us into a real nosedive of recession, and suppose we only have 35 resales next year. So we budgeted 50. We think that's conservative, but suppose it's 30. Are we going to have enough money to meet our reserve account obligations?
I'm not arguing about the logistics of what or won't happen. What I'm arguing about is the accounting procedure.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And so
So if we put it in there, it's covered. Okay? Because one of the things, when you get an estoppel letter out, okay, that's not going to be in the estoppel letter. Because it won't be part of the budget.
we're going to amend the budget.
Thank you. That's all I'm saying, is you ought to, at the next meeting, amend the budget to reflect that.
We're going.
You should have asked that long time.
Yeah. So.
Oh, my God.
Hold on.
Thanks for all your help.
Yes.
Work on that arm.
I'm working on it. That's not the only deal I'm working on.
Hi, I'm JP Mello, Ross Point. Got a question for on the budgeting. The assessment that the foundation receives, the way that that's divided up between operating, replacement, capital, to the point that I think Jerry was just making, what's required in terms of a board vote? Is it just that discretion that you decide how much goes into the reserve versus the capital?
You said assessment, did you mean resale fee?
Yes, the resale fee is what I'm really trying to.
Yes. Yes,
The assessment X the resale fee is 100% for operating or not?
yeah, the HOA fee, the one you pay with a check as a resident here, that goes to the operating account.
And that's by law declaration?
Yes.
And then the resale fee, the board has the power to put the resale fee into which accounts they want to, but the bylaws do have a guide, putting part of it in reserve, part of a replacement, part of it in capital, and part of it in operating. There is and Jerry, my second best friend, my wife said, quit calling me your best friend. He likes that where we divide it up, and we've argued over several beers on this one. But
I'm less interested in Jerry's issue.
okay, well, it's in the bylaws.
Okay, so what's it say in the bylaws?
So I like Steve's analogy. What if we use that schedule and sales are very low and the end of the year comes and we haven't put enough money into the replacement account, what do? Go borrow it from the bank or not pay it? It's just,
You're not answering the question.
Okay.
So let me try to read.
Okay, go ahead.
What does the bylaw say about what's required in regards to how that fees allocated to those two?
45, 30, and 25.
That's
45% operating,
Right,
30% replacement,
right,
25% capital.
great. So if you want to differ from that, or, which you're
we
saying.
pass a resolution. The board passed a resolution, which we did.
Okay, so board resolution can then,
Yes.
override
Yes.
that declaration, requirement.
We did it twice last year.
Okay.
This year we did it twice.
That's what I'm trying to. And so that anytime you want to, you can make a board resolution to decide to reallocate differentially, and that can happen during the year. It doesn't
Yes.
have to happen simply at budget
No.
resolution time.
Yeah, we could change it every each meeting if we wanted to.
Right.
But we changed it, we changed it January 1, and then we changed it again in October-ish.
Okay, so that was the first one. Second question is, where can I find a reserve schedule? I assume there must be, as you mentioned it, reserve schedule for the replacement. Because I've looked online, I can't even find.
No, the reserve schedule is not online. You go to Paul Madry, their general manager, and ask him to he'll let you take a look at it.
I can't have a copy of it.
You can.
When you say look at it, it sounds like I have to.
He said he would give you a copy.
Okay, great. So I'd like to, take a look at it, see what that's saying. And as far as the capital account, is there any information as to what the intentions are for spending those funds, or is that just from time to time as the board decides?
So the board does have a capital plan, and as Daniel pointed out, everything that the board wants to do in terms of infrastructure development is dependent on expanding our parking availability.
Right.
So for 2023, this is our primary goal. We have a short, medium, and long-term look at capital spending. Our projects, as Daniel pointed out, that we're looking at include expanding the fitness center,
Right.
and expanding our pickleball facility.
Where could I go to get a copy or to get, that document? I assume it's a document that spells this out or explains this.
Again, Paul would be your best bet to talk to
Okay.
him about this stuff.
All right, so he's got something that would lay out what the capital expenditure plan is.
Well, this is all sort of, this is vaporware right now. We are working, we understand that there are going to be capital needs over the next,
Right,
let's say,
of course.
5 years.
Yeah, of course.
But you can't dig the first trench without having a parking space. So as far as the county is concerned, because variances were obtained to allow for the last, not the last capital plan, but the building of pickleball courts.
Okay,
So we know that parking is sort of the next bit of capital spending that we're going to be doing in Pelican Marsh. And we have an engineer who is helping us with site plans, and we're talking to the CDD, and we're talking to the golf course. We're trying to ascertain whether or not we're going to be able to, how we're going to manage this.
Right.
If there's no availability of parking, there will be no infrastructure development until such time as we fix this problem.
so just to be clear, understand the whole point about parking is the gatekeeper on whether anything else can get done as far as capital expansion goes. Great. But at this point, it sounds to me what you're saying is you really don't have anything that's been written down that says, okay, assuming we get good parking, here's the priorities here's roughly the amount of funds that we needed, et cetera.
We don't have a formal document
Okay,
that.
yeah, that's all I'm asking.
Lays this all out.
All right,
There is ongoing discussions about all of the projects. That we're
right. No, I'm sure you guys talked about it. I was just curious if there's something I can look at there and say, here's the game plan, here's what we expect. I understand, I've been in business and I understand game plans always change and you put them down and they're about as good as they look for a month or 2 months or whatever it might be, and then, you know, the world changes. So, but I just wanted to know if there's anything current existing. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
They indicated that the restaurant sales during summer months.
Can you get a little
Okay,
closer to the
I'm
mic?
sorry. That close enough?
Just pull the microphone up to you. There you go.
You indicated that the sales at the restaurant in the summer months may be less, make losses, and that we would reimburse the vendor for that, for those losses during those periods of time. What portion of the budget will that come out of?
There's actually a line in our budget for food and beverage. And so there's, in our budget for 2023, we have a food and beverage line.
In operations.
In the operations account, the food and beverage has its own line in the budget. So when you click on that thing we were talking about earlier, and you look at our whole budget, you'll see that under food and beverage.
The loss for summer, or how is it identified?
Contingency.
Yeah, contingency, everything, the whole food and beverage budget is 150,000 for everything that we spend money on, that or anything else we spend money on related to food and beverage. We budgeted for 150 next year. And so that will include that or anything else that we don't know about.
So, but under food and beverage, it's contingencies?
Yeah, it's contingency on the unknown sales amount.
And that's budgeted?
That's budget.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else? Okey-dokey. So I'll accept a motion to increase the resale fee from 60. Wait a second, we did? No, we didn't do this.
We did the
We
motion.
did the motion.
Now we have to vote.
Now we have to vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. Okay. Item 10.2, approval to reallocate the operations portion of resale fees back into the replacement capital account starting January 1, 2023. This is what we were just talking about. And in 2022, we had big needs in the operations account. So a lot of this money was going into operations. We no longer have those needs. So the money is going to go back into replacement fund primarily until it's completely funded per our replacement schedule. And then we'll go into capital. May I have a motion to approve the reallocation?
I shall move.
May I have a second? Second. Do we have any comment on this? Any questions? Everybody understand this? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. There is no design review committee written report this month, so we will go to board member comments.
I just want to say, number one, thank everybody for coming. Number two, why I think for myself and the majority, if not all of the board, supporting the 7,500 increase. I know where we live in Osprey Point, our HOA is increasing. We don't know how much. Insurance for all of us on our condos, everything. Insurance in Florida is an issue. We are all dealing with it. So I think we have such wonderful volunteer people on the finance committee and other committees. We are not getting paid this year. Next year doesn't look so good either. So I think everybody does their best, mainly with all of your comments, which I really appreciate, and I know the board does too. And with that, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you, Pat. Anyone else? Any resident comments? You do?
Just real quick, now that there's an agreement
Your
with,
name
Joan
and your-
Vogel,
thank you,
still,
and your neighborhood.
still, Egress Walk.
You go.
Okay, what is the foundation's policy going forward about food trucks and the other food vendors that come by? Is that still gonna happen in addition to the restaurant? Because I would think that our new vendor might have thought about it.
So, well, broadly speaking, when the restaurant is not open, food trucks are a welcome addition to the foundation. So we anticipate that initially, at least, there's not going to be any breakfast service out of this restaurant. So the food trucks will be available for breakfast. And we're kind of seeing now there's a food truck that comes on Tuesdays, wonderful French pastries and crepes and things. And we're kind of looking at this and seeing how they're doing. Is there really a demand for this, or is this just sort of people say, well, I'd like to have it, but I'm not willing to go actually buy anything there. So we're going to kind of see how that looks. Right now, there's one food truck coming on Tuesday mornings, so which you see in your email. Now, as far as the other trucks go, like the frozen foods and stuff like that, yeah, that's going to continue because it doesn't conflict with food sales at the restaurant. Yes.
Ed Hardy, Claremont. On the lease agreement with the restaurateur, is he going to pay a rental fee?
He pays $1.
Yeah. And he gets the equipment and the building site and the rest of it?
Yes.
So are we responsible for keeping the equipment up to date?
Yes.
So you have a provision for that? Or?
Yes. So we have the food and beverage contingency all this stuff is relatively brand new. But if something needed to be replaced, we would replace it out of that fund.
Usually we depreciate it.
When it gets old, the replacement account will take care of it.
Yeah, when it gets old, it's going to be taken care of out of replacement. But for now, for instance, he needs a larger grill, some more refrigeration area. So we're going to spend probably $5,000 out of that account getting all the new equipment installed, and we'll be ready to go. But that's where the money would come from.
And what is the term of the lease agreement?
So it's a 5-year lease with an option to renew.
5 years?
Mhm.
So if it's very successful for him, it's kind of a win-win for him, isn't it?
Yes. We want it to be successful for him.
Yeah.
We would like him to make a pot of money and be here for us. This is the view of the board and the foundation is that this is an amenity. We want to provide this for the residents. That means the guy has to be here, and for him to be here, he has to be profitable.
There is a provision.
All the equipment, all the rest of the year, or do we do that too?
Maintaining
Maintenance of the space and the.
daily maintenance, cleaning, all that stuff he's going to be doing. But in terms of scheduled maintenance for different kinds of equipment, we would be doing that. It's our equipment. We own it. You bet.
There is a provision in the lease that should he be successful over a detailed threshold, that we do recover a decent amount of money. So there is upside with his performance being what it is.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, on behalf of the board, I would like to wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday season. Be safe. I know a lot of you are traveling back to see family and friends, and those of you who will be here, I hope that you enjoy the holidays in Naples. So we'll see you next year.
Hey, Steve, before, do you want to share the name or not?
Oh, the name. Thanks, Brent. Brent's Place. No. So the vendor has selected the name. It's Portside. He wants to call it Portside. So it will not be Nest any longer. Nest is RIP. No more Nest.
Hey, just one thing.
Yes.
We seem to have 2 questions.
Oh, hold on. Thank you. First question, how does the new fee compare to the entrance fee for Pelican Bay, realizing they have a beach, et cetera?
Entrance fee?
I think he's talking the resale fee.
The resale fee at Pelican Bay is $10,000.
$10,000.
They went up 33%. Pelican Bay went up 33%.
What's now?
10,000.
10,000.
Second question, the parking issue during season, how many guests are taking up parking spots? I can tell you from time of opening till noon, during season, guests aren't allowed. So in our prime time, we're most busiest in season, guests aren't allowed. So it should be only residents taking up parking spaces. After noon and and beyond, it dies down pretty much where we have additional spaces, to accommodate guests.
Well, I'm under the impression that we have not run out of spaces, like we haven't had a day yet where every space was taken and someone could park. Is that true?
That's true. But again, we're still haven't, like you said, reached those pre-COVID levels. So we don't know. And with the restaurant opening, and if this guy is successful as I think he's going to be, we may have a lot more capacity.
Okay. Move to adjourn.
And so move.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Yeah, I do. I'm drinking.
Jerry, did you? Jerry, did you